Good morning, Nation. John here. Very short video this morning. First and foremost, thank you for being here. Thank you to the Blue Wrenches, the moderators, for doing an incredible job. And if it's your first time here, maybe hit the subscribe button here on the channel so we can continue to grow, yada, 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 all that jazz. So, Patreon crowd and the Coffee Club crowd, we are going to be having an exclusive live stream right at noon today. The lobby for that should open at 11 o'clock. So if you're brand new to Patreon or the Coffee Club, maybe ask a Blue Wrench where you can find that link, okay? But again, live streaming at lunchtime today, the nooner, son. So, you know who my favorite people on YouTube are? Oh, man, there's such a wide variety of people that you meet on social media, isn't there? But my favorite people on YouTube are the ones that are like, the government would never do anything wrong. The government would never do anything bad to me. You know? Well, this isn't happening. You're on YouTube telling a very scary story for clicks. You're trying to grow your brand, whatever that means, or your platform. You're just trying to be a famous YouTuber. Nah, son, let me break it down for you real quick. Before we get into the meat and potatoes. Sorry, Greta. Meat. Real meat and potatoes. People on YouTube are not famous. Even the really, really big YouTubers that think they're famous, look, we're average Joes and Janes here. Whether they realize it or not, we're just people, with really bad fashion sense in my case and an addiction to coffee. But look, let's talk about your future home this morning. All right. And again, this video is really tailored to that crowd, my favorite crowd. You're telling that scary story, boogie woogie. This is for you. All right. And I have to give credit where it's due. We Are the Resistance on Patreon sent a question yesterday and said, hey, have you ever heard about this topic? And I had, but it had been a while. And I said, I replied and said, thank you. This is a perfect example that I can deliver to this crowd. So your future home looks a little something like this. You're either going to be in a 15-minute city where you believe you're still free, but you're actually not free. And you go up to the gate and you get your retina scanned, or, you've got the application somewhere on you, digitally speaking. And then you're allowed to go through the gate and access the next part of the 15-minute city, or maybe the city over, or something like this. That's scenario number one. Number two is you are still in that same situation, but you have razor wire on top of the fences because you would not comply, and maybe you have a line on the road or something, and you're not allowed to step off the line or they're going to billy club you, son. This is the future. And I'm going to make a case for that this morning. So there was a project. Again, the government would never, ever do anything bad against the civilian population here in the United States. And to be very clear, I'm not anti-government. I think we need very limited government, and it needs to be based on the Constitution. All right. Government is bloated right now. There's a huge amount of overreach, and this is the future. There was a project called Rex 84. You can Google it, but I've done you a solid here because I love y'all. I've linked it in the video description down below. This was a classified operation. It was part of a bigger operation, but we'll get to that. And it was classified up until, it was first reported on, leaked out, whatever, in 1987. I think the Miami Herald, if I'm not mistaken, is the first to report on it. And they said, hey, what's the deal with Operation Rex 84? So, again, it's declassified now, but this was put together by the U.S. federal government back in 1984. There were lists, real lists for those folks in that crowd that were compiled for, I don't know, the better part of 20 years leading up to this operation. And what this was a simulation of wide-scale arrests. All right, so based on these lists, The military at this point in time, it was a contingency plan just in case there was a threat to national security. Basically, how are we going to go around? How are we going to detain large amounts of people at one time? So this plan, Rex 84, actually called for the arrests of 100,000 plus here in the United States of America. And again, they had identified 100,000. The number's actually higher than 100,000, but nobody knows the exact number, based on lists that they have compiled, 2 decades prior, again, of troublemakers, people that were up to no good, nefarious purposes, people that would speak out against such a thing. And these folks on these lists were called security threats, all right, during this simulation. And this plan authorized the U.S. military to, at that point, move against the U.S. civilian population. Now, again, this was a smaller operation. It was a bigger part. There was a bigger operation called Operation Garden. Operation Garden Plot, maybe, something like that. But this was a smaller piece to a bigger operation. In other words, the United States, there's something catastrophic happening in the United States. We need to restore order now. We need to make sure there's a contingency plan in place where the federal government stays in power no matter what. Here's a list of 100,000 plus. Arrest them. This sort of thing. How are we going to execute this? How are we going to go into local governments, assume control, go out and arrest these people? Now, the list itself that was compiled over 2 decades is called the ADEX, ADEX list. So for the folks that continue to leave comments, there are no lists, you're telling scary stories. It was called the ADEX list. This is declassified. It's literally admitted. Because they got caught. I mean, it was going on behind the scenes. It got reported on. And then they admitted to the fact, yeah, we have a list. We've compiled a list of you troublemakers. And the order needed, guess what? Guess what they needed to execute this thing? Only the signature of the active president. Whoever the acting president was, that's all it was going to take for this thing to kick off. Now, this brings up a lot of interesting questions from where I'm sitting again in a $250 chair that is starting to squeak and getting on my nerves and, whatever. But I digress. What constitutes someone as a security threat? That's a very important question, right? How does someone make a list like this? Are these people legitimately security threats? Or are they simply speaking out against the process, speaking out against other people being arrested? Maybe they're speaking out against tyrannical government. Maybe they're speaking out against certain agendas that are floating around in the mainstream. You see where I'm going with this? Everybody watching this right now, if you have ever spoken out against the agenda, and hopefully you guys know what agendas I'm talking about, hashtag Rainbow Mafia, etc. If you've ever spoken out, about this on a cell phone, whether it's a direct message to somebody, in an email, if you've spoken out against this on any social media platform, guess what? You're already on a list like the 8X list. Now, I have no idea what these lists are called now, but I assure you, they do exist. They want to know who is going to speak out against this agenda. But again, what constitutes a security threat? I do think in certain cases, if somebody's trying to do something illegal and nefarious, the government would have the right to step in. But I mean, it's 2023. At this point, we were just talking about this the other morning during the live stream, a parent at a school board meeting that is speaking out against a certain agenda or certain literature in a school, they could be identified in 2023 as a security threat. In fact, they were. That kind of got whitewashed very quickly, and people forgot about that. But again, I saw a video of people speaking out. No, we can't have that. We're going to cuff you and we're going to carry you out sideways, and we're going to make an example of you to try and scare everyone around you so they don't speak out against it. You understand? Now, this project was suspended after 9/11, after the attacks and everything, because a lot of our constitutional rights went out of the window. You know, there was really no need to kind of do things behind a curtain anymore because people just said, "Hey, we can't have bad people doing bad things in this country. So here are our rights. Here's some constitutional rights. You can spy on me," this sort of thing. But since 9/11, Homeland Security is actually, because there was a reorganization after 9/11 in Homeland Security. And as they were reorganizing, they brought new people in. They said, we need a program like this. We need to come up with I guess, a newer version of a program like this, just in case. Just in case what? Again, here's another $1 million question. What kind of event is actually needed before a president deems that, this is unsafe? Here, let me sign this piece of paper, take everyone's rights away, and let's go ahead and execute a plan like this. What needs to happen? Are we talking about a national divorce? Are we talking about a full-on invasion? Are we talking about national martial law? Are we talking about a climate crisis? Watch, do this with me. Are we talking about a climate crisis? Yes, that's probably going to be the case. It's a perfect scapegoat because, hey, we have to save the planet. I just, not to get off the beaten path here, but I just saw where they're scrambling out west. They don't know what to do. They're running out of water. Joe Biden is signing legislation that is going to it's going to limit people's access to water, even though our planet is 70% water. Figure that one out. We have a climate crisis where we don't have water anymore. And further, where do people's constitutional rights go? Because these rights are guaranteed. So during a crisis or something like this, whatever the sitting acting president, the potato or whatever y'all want to call him, son, when he signs a piece of paper, where do your constitutional rights go? Do they, what happens here? Does the Constitution just grab a sleeping bag and go for a sleepover with the Keebler elves? Where does it go? These are guaranteed rights that completely go out of the window. And guess what? Most people are going to comply. Now, this plan that I just laid out, Rex 84, this actually was exposed in 1987 and admitted to shortly after. So they were working on this thing. The data collection, again, I think began in the 60s. Now, I don't know if it was under the 8X list at that point in time or something else, but they started gathering data in the 60s. Why is this important? Consider this. It's 2023. Consider all of the tech advancements that we've had. Consider the AI advancements that we've had in this country. And ask yourself, if they were able to collect the names of 100,000 plus, beginning in the 60s, what do these lists look like now? Going to be a lot more than 100,000 people, right? Think about it. Everybody, pretty much everybody. There's some holdouts. They have a smartphone. They have apps downloaded. They have online gaming devices. They have laptops. They have computers. They have internet access. They have Alexas listening in the kitchen. People say that's a conspiracy theory. Well, maybe. But if it's not a conspiracy theory, and these things are listening and these things are watching, I know for a fact phones listen. These things are harvesting data unlike anything we've ever seen before. I promise you, these lists are huge at this point. All right. AI, getting into AI for a second, I think it's called Chat GPT or something like this. That program, folks, this is not something that's on the way and coming. It's already here. For those that don't know, the AI program, Chat GPT, is actually curating and writing some of the mainstream media articles now. Some of the stuff that you're seeing in mainstream media meant to divide the country and make this side hate this side is being written by AI as I'm filming this. All right. That's the battle ahead, folks. So once again, to the crowd out there, it used to drive me crazy because the writing's here on the wall and it feels like you're holding somebody by the back of the head saying, look at this. Please open your eyes. It doesn't drive me any crazy anymore. I laugh at these people. They are literally my entertainment because you have to be so willfully stupid at this point to not think lists are being compiled, to not think that folks are going to be in camps. Bringing us to another excellent question. Once again, where do you put 100,000 people? 2023, I'm just spitballing. I'm going to say that number's probably 4 or 5 times as high, if not higher, probably higher. Where do you put that many American citizens? How do you detain them? You understand where the problem is? The people that are in power, and this is historic, this is all throughout history, including the United States, people that are in power do not want to lose power. They want to keep power no matter what. No matter how bad it has to get, they want to stay in power. And I promise you, the United States, the federal government, the military, they have contingency plans for everything. Everything, right? Literally from zombies to an alien invasion, they have contingency plans for the next national divorce, martial law, stock market crash, and in this case, whatever Joe Biden deems necessary. Or the next president or the next president. Who knows? We're probably stuck with that joker for 80 years. I don't wish that on anybody, though. But they have a contingency plan. They have a backup plan for everything, and they have a backup to the backup for everything. So the point this morning is if your own government is running contingency plans and they have backup plans in place, shouldn't you? Isn't this literally why people should be prepping? Folks, this is John with Prepper Nation. Again, all that information is in the video description down below. In case you're interested, it's all declassified now anyway. But this kind of stuff does exist. So I'll see the rest of you tomorrow. If you're in the coffee club, Patreon, I will be seeing you around lunchtime. Take care and God bless.